Episode 37. Han Li saw Wu Yan's awkward look and found it rather amusing. Naturally, he wasn't going to refuse to treat him because of it. But to protect his own reputation, Han Li deliberately prescribed a stronger dose, curing Wu Yan's illness in just 2 days. It was just that, due to the overly potent medicine, the patient endured a bit more agony during his recovery, a small punishment from Han Li for his appalling attitude all those years ago. It seems Han Li wasn't as magnanimous as he thought. He was actually quite the grudge holder. And so Han Li gradually and completely took over Dr. Mo's position on the mountain, even surpassing it. Now he would take the little bottle out every day, placing it in an open area of the valley. Every 7 or 8 days it would produce a miraculous green liquid. He used this to accelerate the growth of rare herbs, cultivating them to great age, and then meticulously prepared them into various potent medicines. Only a small portion of these medicines went to the patients who came seeking treatment. The majority were consumed by Han Li himself, used to nourish his foundation, refine his ki, and advance his cultivation of the eternal spring arts. Han Li shifted his body slightly in the reclining chair, settling into a more comfortable position. During this time, he meticulously examined his body inside and out several times, and indeed, there was a trace of an elusive, chilling energy lurking within his dantian. Han Li tried taking the clear spirit powder and using various other detoxification methods, but unfortunately, none of them worked. It seems the journey a year from now is unavoidable. After a long moment of stillness, Han Li suddenly raised his right hand, extending a single finger straight up. Moments later, a faint ripple of spatial distortion appeared half an inch above Han Li's upraised fingertip, and several sparks of flame materialized out of thin air. The sparks had barely appeared when, within the spatial distortion, they inexplicably transformed into red fireballs the size of walnuts. Though the fireball was small, an intense, sweltering heat spread throughout the entire room in its wake. Han Li lay motionless, the book still covering his face as if he were asleep. Only the small fireball at his fingertip was active, its constant, sizzling crackle of intense heat a stark contrast to the utter stillness of his hand. Minute by minute, the time passed, yet the fireball maintained its extraordinary, vigorous vitality, showing not the slightest sign of extinguishing. But Han Li finally showed a different reaction. The fingertip he was using to stare at the fireball began to tremble. At first, it was just the finger. But as moments passed, the trembling spread from his wrist to his entire arm until his whole body was shaking. Suddenly, Han Li sat bolt upright from the armchair, the book sliding from his face to the floor completely unnoticed. His eyes were locked on the tiny fireball at his fingertip. His face flushed a deep crimson. Beads of sweat broke out across his skin, from his forehead down to the nape of his neck. He looked as if he'd just finished some intense physical exertion, his entire body steaming with heat. A moment later, the fireball began to waver as Han Li's whole body shook violently, its flames swelling and shrinking erratically. Before long, it finally shrank down, dissolving back into sparks that vanished into the air. The moment the fireball vanished, Han Li collapsed back into his chair as if his spine had been pulled out, looking utterly exhausted, as though he'd just performed some incredibly strenuous task.
This fireball technique is really tough to master. I've been studying it for nearly half a year, and I still haven't fully grasped its essence. All I've managed to do is extend its duration by just a tiny bit.
It turned out that the final few pages of the Eternal Spring Arts Manual also recorded several crude spells. These were clearly entry-level things for a cultivator, but Han Li treated them like priceless treasures. He was so excited he couldn't sleep for several nights in a row. It's no wonder he was so thrilled. Ever since he'd seen the few spells Dr. Mo had performed, Han Li had been fascinated by these incredible, profoundly powerful things. But the poor fellow, despite having reached the peak of the 6th layer of the Eternal Spring Arts, was like a beggar holding a golden bowl, begging for scraps. He knew not a single spell-casting technique, nor did he understand even the most basic principles of magic. But now, he'd stumbled upon several incantations perfectly suited for a novice like himself. How could he not be overjoyed? The final page of the book recorded 5 incantations: Fireball, Calming Talisman, Wind Riding, Object Control, and Heavenly Eye. Every single phrase within these spells was profoundly obscure and difficult for Han Li to grasp. That's hardly surprising. These incantations were all written in a rather archaic form of grammar and vocabulary. He had read a fair number of books, but his knowledge in this area was truly shallow. Naturally, he couldn't grasp the deeper meanings right away. Left with no other choice, Han Li threw himself into the task with the same desperate intensity he'd used to learn the eternal spring arts. He buried himself in stacks of ancient texts, studying the true meaning of the incantation day and night. He would scrutinize every single word and phrase, turning them over dozens of times before he was satisfied. After 3 months of intense study, Han Li had finally mastered the theoretical underpinnings of every single incantation. And so he began his true spell practice. But when he actually got down to the practical work of learning, Han Li found himself facing a significant setback. He had thought that with the same cleverness he'd shown in learning the blink sword art, picking up some spells wouldn't be too difficult. Yet, in this, he had suddenly become astonishingly inept.
What's going on? I understand the principle perfectly, so why can't I get it right? It's either the hand seals are wrong, the incantation is off, or my magic power isn't flowing right. What am I supposed to do now? If it's a problem of insufficient magic power, I can still find a way to fix that. I'll just take a couple more spirit pills. But this is clearly a problem with my own grasp of it. It seems my talent for magic isn't as good as I'd imagined.
After Han Li's long and arduous training, he finally achieved a modest level of proficiency in the Fireball and Heavenly Eye techniques. But for the other 3 spells, he hadn't even touched the threshold. There was no progress at all. Frustrated, he had no choice but to focus all his energy on the spells he could currently master, like the Fireball technique and the Heaven's Eye technique. Don't let the small size of the Fireball technique's projectile fool you. The terrifying heat it contains can melt through anything and burn anything to ash. Even a weapon forged from the finest steel would have the point of contact melted into molten iron in the blink of an eye. After witnessing this inhuman, terrifying power, Han Li even tossed a fireball onto the water's surface to test it. The result, that patch of water, as if it were oil, was instantly set ablaze by the fireball. Water couldn't suppress it either. After fully grasping the power of the Fireball technique, Han Li finally understood why Yu Zitung had that arrogant, dismissive attitude toward mortals.
A cultivator who knows just a little magic can use a minor spell like the Fireball technique to easily kill so-called masters and famous experts of the martial world. And if a more powerful cultivator were to act, wouldn't they sweep through the entire martial world, becoming invincible under heaven? The gap in power is so vast. It's no wonder cultivators like Yu Zitong look upon ordinary people as if they were ants.
As for the other spell, the Heavenly Eye technique, Han Li held high expectations for it after witnessing the power of the Fireball technique. But once he actually cast it, Han Li realized this spell was just a minor trick of applying magic power to the eyes. It was utterly without difficulty, and he picked it up with ease. Its function is purely auxiliary, used to observe whether a person possesses magic power and to gauge its depth. Han Li was quite interested in it at first. He kept casting the Heaven's Eye technique on his own eyes, then used his spell-enhanced vision to examine his body. The result was a layer of faint white light enveloping him, and the closer he looked to his dantian, the thicker and more concentrated the white light became.
So this is what they call magic power. There's no sensation at all when I touch this layer of white light. Magic power is probably like internal energy, intangible and formless. It only becomes visible under the Heaven's Eye technique.
But after using it a few times in a row, Han Li completely lost interest in it. After all, in the entire Seven Mysteries sect, he was the only one who could be considered half a cultivator. Who was he supposed to use the Heaven's Eye technique on? He couldn't just spend all day admiring himself in the mirror. So, Han Li continued to intensify his practice of the Fireball technique, hoping to master its use in actual combat. He also shifted his interest to the other spells he hadn't yet learned, beginning to practice and apply them bit by bit, hoping to achieve another breakthrough. A deep, heavy tolling of a bell echoed from outside the valley. Han Li frowned. Lately, for some reason, it seemed like the number of people coming to seek medical treatment had suddenly increased, and most of them had external injuries like severed limbs, sword wounds, or knife cuts. He didn't dare delay. A life was on the line. He snatched up his pre-packed medical kit and rushed out of the house, heading straight for the valley entrance. At the edge of the woods outside the valley, Han Li spotted a high-ranking disciple in brocade robes, pacing anxiously back and forth like an ant on a hot skillet. The moment he spotted Han Li, he immediately rushed over.
Dr. Han, you're finally here. My master has been poisoned with a deadly toxin, and he's on the verge of death. Please, you must come quickly and see if you can neutralize it.
As the man drew near, Han Li recognized him. He'd seen him a few times before. This was Ma Rong, the favored disciple of the sect's fifth-ranked elder Li, who had visited Divine Hand Valley with his master on several occasions.
Poisoned? What rotten luck. I've still got my own poison to deal with. I don't have time to worry about anyone else. What happened to Elder Li? Tell me about his condition.